All right, what's a pirate's favorite letter of the alphabet? No, it's not R. It's the C because it keeps them afloat. Haha. All right, welcome back to another video. So we are doing break-even analysis. This is what simultaneous equations is most applied for in this course. Um, it's for it's essentially break-even analysis is what every business wants to do really soon. Break even, long story short, means however money you put in is however much money you've made. So if I spend $1,000 in trying to get a business up and running, I want to make that $1,000 back as quickly as possible so I can start making some profit, okay, and get out of debt. That's how it works. So that's break-even analysis is how we use simultaneous equations to kind of figure that out. So yes, it's a real-life application of simultaneous, and it is the most common application here. We'll normally talk about these words income, revenue, and cost. Now, the important thing to note in general with these words is income and revenue is money coming in. Okay. If I make revenue, that means I'm making money. But when I talk about cost, these are the things that it's going to cost me. This is money out. Okay. So these are important things to note. Income and revenue is money coming in. However, cost is money running out. Okay. And essentially, what we're going to do here is we're going to calculate loss, profit, and a break-even point using our straight lines. Okay, here's an example. We're going to try break this down. Mr. K runs a study day. Okay, let's pretend I run a study day, and I'm going to charge $40 per person, which I think is going to be fairly generous. Blacktown Library charges me $500 for booking a room, and also on top of that, $15 per student as an entry fee. So imagine that this was what's going on. Now, the first part here is find an equation for Mr. K's costs. Okay, so with costs, let's highlight that in red. The things that it's going to cost me is the $500. I have to pay that. And I'm also going to have to pay for the $15 per student. Okay. So it says for this particular question, it says it charges him. And so that is included as part of the cost that I have to cover. So with that in mind, I can see that that 500 is a fixed cost. And I can see that that there is essentially going to play the role of my gradient because that is sometimes we call it a variable cost. So the equation for Mr. K's costs, I'll say cost is going to equal to $15 per student, and I'll use N for number of students, and then plus the $500. So that's how much it's going to cost me. There's your equation. That's done. Okay, second part, find the equation for Mr. K's revenue. So how much money am I making? Now my revenue is going to be $40. That's how much money's coming in. And maybe I'll do this in blue so I can see money out and money in. So, oh my gosh. Okay, my revenue, how much do I make? There's no upfront cost for this. There's no y-intercept. There's no startup. This one here is just I make $40 per person. So if one person comes, I make 40. If two people come, I make 80. Three people will be 120. Four people will be 160, so on and so forth. So my revenue essentially is going to be $40 per person. And again, a person is denoted with the letter N. Okay, so now I've got two equations, one for revenue, one for cost. Okay, now part three is sketch Mr. K's cost and revenue equations. So cost and revenue is kind of got to do with money. So let's start with the easier one. Looks like R equals 40N. So let's start with our revenue. So our revenue, if there are 0 students, I can see here that I'm going to make zero, what do you call it? I'm going to make $0. However, if I'm talking about 10 students, I can see that I will be making 400, right? Because 40 times 10, which is my number of students, will give me 400. So that means at 10, it's going to be 400. Now, if I had 20 students, I'd go 40 times 20. That'll give me 800. So that would be 5, 6 there. And if I had 30, it would be 1,200. And what you can see here is this is going to map out a beautiful straight line for you. Thank God for technology. That's close enough for me. I will happily take that. And I can see there that that is close enough to being my equation, in my graph for my cost. Oh no, I'm so sorry, everybody. This here is my revenue. Okay, so I'm going to change that to red to make it a little bit more, to make it make more sense. Okay. This here is my revenue. This is how much I make. Now, if I'm talking about the, wait, I think I was right. That's my revenue. And I think I just wrote cost. Did I? Yeah, it was blue. And the only, that just should have been R for revenue. Okay, that is revenue. Now my cost, I can see here that there is a upfront cost or a y-intercept of $500. So that means I'm starting at the $500, and I can see here that my gradient is 15 for every student. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go off these markers, the 10, 20, 30, 40, and I'm going to go, what is 10 times 15? That's 150. What's 100? I'll write this down one time. So 15 times 10 plus 500. That's going to give me a total of 650. So I know that at the 10 mark, it's going to be 650. So that's 600, 650, roughly there. If I have 20 students, that's going to be my 800. Okay, and again, this is what I'd be putting into your calculator. So 20 will be 800. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. We've got a point of intersection. And then at 40, I'm going to skip a couple. Oh, you know what? I won't skip it. This one will be plus another 150. And then this one here will be another 150. Did I do that right? Yes, I did. And if I've done this correctly, everything should line up in a nice straight line. And that there would be my line for my cost. And so now we've got this thing going on here. And this is where I need you guys to understand that this point here is what we call your break-even point. Okay, and it's always important to note where it meets up. And that there's your break-even point. Anything on this side here, I'm going to color in green, because what this is anything above that break-even point. This is what we call the zone for profit, which means you're good, you are making money. However, I'm going to highlight this part here in red. This is where you do not want to be if you are running a business. Anything below that break-even point, that means you haven't made your money back, which means you are at a loss or in debt or not doing it. It's a bad business. So this is what you've got going on here. Okay, so it's important to understand what this graph actually represents and why the break-even point is so important to understand. So I've sketched both those equations. Now it says here, find the profit if, is that all I did? Okay, I probably should also talk about an extra part. Yeah, an extra part three. Part three, part two is find how many students to break even. And you can see here that I need 20 students for me to make my money back. Okay, so if I can get 20 students to this study day, I'm breaking even. I have not lost a single dollar. However, it says here, let's see what happens. Find the profit made if 40 students attend. And profit, if you want to break it down to a formula, essentially it's going to be revenue minus your cost. Okay. And so if we want to look at 40 students, let's take a look at both of these points here. So the cost for 40 students will be, if I match it up here, will be 1,100. And if I try to find the revenue for 40 people, I'm just going to go a little bit further until I hit that 40. I can see that I'll be approximately there. That's going to be 1,600. So the revenue for 40 will roughly be 1,600. And so if I was to find the profit, it's just going to be my revenue, which is 1,600, take away my cost, which is 1,100. That means I can make a profit of $500 if I can get 40 people at this study day. I hope that helps, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later. Bye.